Hi, I'm Henry Cheape. I'm rowing across the Atlantic solo this winter, part of the Atlantic Challenge 2023. I'm raising money and awareness for three worthwhile charities: Sustain, Global Canopy and the Nomad Conservation Fund. Part of the message, or a big part of my message, is to try and promote sustainably produced food. The selection we have here is some of what we sell at Balgove. Balgove is a farm shop on the edge of St Andrews. We're trying to promote organic, locally sourced, regeneratively farmed, wholesome food. The question I have is, can I get myself across the Atlantic surviving on this type of food? There's a lot of excellent freeze-dried food available which is designed for expeditions. I'm not here to criticise that. I'm here to try and produce some sort of balance towards my diet when I cross the Atlantic. I have here, which I'll go through in a minute, piece by piece, a number of items, from tea to sweet chilli sauce to freeze-dried honeyberries. I'm no pioneer. Many people have done many more interesting and challenging things. However, part of what I find really interesting about this challenge is the food, where I get it from and how it's going to fuel me. For example, the humble oat cake. I got Shackleton and his team across the Antarctic ice shelf. Toffee, absolutely essential for morale in all sorts of tricky situations for generations. And the simple porridge oat. New packaging, same food. Simple today, but was absolutely fundamental to diets, even 50 years ago. So what I find most interesting about this part of the challenge is how I can complement what is clearly proven as food through expedition foods and other very modern freeze-dried techniques, how I can partner this type of food with that and try and major on this type of food to get myself across the Atlantic safely. I've been training for a few months now, and clearly there's some difficult times, and what I've experienced so far is nothing compared to the difficulties I'm going to have. I'm going to be suffering from solitude, I'm going to be suffering from sores, I'll be extraordinarily tired. Those are some of the reasons why I'm doing this, to get out of my comfort zone. Talking to others who've gone before us, who have been in very difficult situations, often defer to routine as the way to manage the way they're feeling. So if I can build some sort of routine to help me through every day, I feel that I'm going to have a much stronger chance of really enjoying this challenge. So the first part of the routine is breakfast. So the granola that we make here at Balgove, number one on our ingredients list is Fife porridge oats. So they're going to give me a slow release carbohydrate energy for the day. As a solo rower, my routine, coming back to routine, is not the same as multi-crews. Multi-crews often do a 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 2 hours on rota. In that situation, you need an energy spike for your 2 hours, and then you can drop whilst you sleep for 2 hours, and then you can come back up again. I'm going to row for much longer periods, 4, 5, 6 hours at a time. So what I don't want to have is what I call a sugar rush. I want a carbohydrate like a porridge oat that's going to release energy slowly over that period. So granola to start the day. Milk, not possible. It's going to go off very quickly. Milk powder, too heavy. So simply boiling water with a bit of honey. This honey has all been harvested by bees, our neighbours in Fife. So this East Newt bees, for those who haven't been to Fife, the eastern part of Fife is known as the East Newt. So these guys are all from here, from a village called Newport-on-Tay, just down the road. Tea. Tea is very important for us Brits. So I'm going to take tea for breakfast and tea for tea. We'll come back to tea shortly. But tea for breakfast from Clipper is my favourite breakfast tea. And I think between us as a family, we probably go through about a box of this every 3 days. We drink it by the gallon. So routine is important, but also some sort of familiarity. So if I can remain familiar with what I do at home, connection with my family who I'm going to miss, then this will be a great sense of home on the boat. Again, no milk. So whilst I've been training, I've been drinking black tea. And actually, I challenge you, to pour yourself now a cup of tea and then another cup of tea and put milk in one and do a blind taste test. I'm pretty sure you can't taste the difference. So that is my breakfast. So oatcakes, absolutely amazing food. I don't know if you can see on the side here, but we've got per biscuit, we're at 119 kilocalories. I need to be taking on 6,000 of those every day. Have I got that right? Is it 49? Sorry, let's start again.
No, carry on. I think
still going?
No, just keep going.
Okay, so per biscuit, I've got 119 kilocalories. I need to take on 6,000 a day. These biscuits are delicious on their own. If anyone out there can make oatcakes with beef dripping, even better. That might be 300, 400, 500 with the beef on it. However, now we have peanut butter with no palm oil. In here, I've got a kilo of peanut butter in a paint tin. We've got the best part of 6,000 calories in here. So this tin of energy is what I need to take on every day during my row over the Atlantic. The marmalade we make here in our shop at Balgove, I don't have an energy calculation for this, but that doesn't matter because it's absolutely delicious, and I'm going to put it on the oatcakes so that they taste of something like home again. Yeah, who am I talking to?
Me.
When am I starting?
Now.
So during the crossing, the routine will evolve as the days evolve. Weather will determine quite a lot about what I do and when I do it. But if I can maintain my breakfast in the morning and dinner in the evening, inevitably there will be bits of the day that I need to fill up. Snacking is not something I do naturally. However, this crossing will require snacking, both to keep the energy levels up and also to relieve the boredom. I've got here 4 different snacks, 2 different types of, well, one's chorizo, one is biltong, both full of protein. And the chorizo is simply, as you can see, I've got some fish scales on my knife from last time, but the chorizo is something which is just literally going to be eaten like a giant pepperami. So take one of those down 2 or 3 times a day, and it doesn't have the energy on it, but it's going to be absolutely delicious, and it's full of all sorts of goodness. The biltong, the same. Beef, we produce beef on our farm which we sell through our butchery. We haven't pioneered how to make biltong from our beef yet, but if anyone out there has grass-fed beef from the UK, ideally from an organic farm, then I'd love to hear from you. Almonds, nuts, all sorts of interesting things we can do with those. They're absolutely stuffed with energy. They're very moreish. One of the challenges I'm told that you get whilst doing this crossing is that actually filling yourself up with food can be challenging sometimes. You can find it difficult to keep enough calories on. So finding moreish food, not sugar-laden sweets, is going to be, I believe, a really helpful thing to have. Just to contradict myself, a little sugar-laden sweet here. We will have to have some chocolate on board. There's no fridge, there's no way of preserving anything other than the packaging it's in. However, these lockers here on the boat, of which there are 4, go down deep, right deep down below the waterline, and I'm told that no one's had a melted bar of chocolate yet. As long as you keep the water down below the waterline, the water will provide enough of an ambient temperature to stop the chocolate from melting. Mackie's Scotland, chocolate made from Scotland using Scottish milk, is exactly the type of message we're trying to get through. So there's going to be lots and lots of times when I'm crossing the Atlantic that I simply won't be able to do what I'm going to be talking about now. But there will be some times, I believe, where it'll be flat calm, it'll be desperately boring, I'll be knackered, I'll be hot, and I'll just want a little bit of comfort. I enjoy cooking. I can't take a chopping board and knives and all sorts of things like that. So I'm looking for anyone who can provide things like this. It's a simple risotto, the type of thing that is not quite a ready meal that you buy at home, but equally not something you put the ingredients together. You can see that it's all within the risotto. So it's a halfway house. The cooker I've got on board is a camping stove, essentially. You put water in here, close the lid, light the gas, boils the water. So I've got a kettle, I've got a hob, depends on what you want to call it, but I can cook this risotto in here, obviously in hot water. Then how do you make the risotto a little bit more tasty? How do you make it a bit more home? How do you add a bit of fun to the whole thing? Well, why can't I take some pepper? So let's take a pepper grinder. Salt, I don't need to take any salt with me because the boat is going to be covered, all this is going to be covered in salt. So I'll just take it off the edge and flake it in. Garlic, isn't that the spice of life? We need to add garlic to almost everything. No one can smell my breath, so I'm going to add lashings of garlic to almost everything. And then oil. So I can't take glass bottles of any type of oil. Glass is ideally something I'm going to avoid. So this, it's also heavy, it can break. However, this olive oil comes in what we all remember as a bag of wine. Oil is full of all sorts of goodness. It's going to support some of the fats that I'm not getting from other foods. So olive oil, garlic, pepper, risotto, 1 pan cooking. What's not to like about that? Any other ideas along those lines, I'd love to try and take them with me to cross the Atlantic. Freeze-drying food, sublimation, takes all of the moisture out of whatever you put into the freeze-drying machine. It works by evaporating all the moisture out of it without damaging the cell structure. It maintains 97% of the flavour and crucially the nutritional benefits. And you can freeze-dry pretty much anything. You can do ham, you can do eggs, you can freeze-dry ice cream, obviously strawberries. So how am I going to use this for our crossing? Honeyberries, something I've only really come across in the last few months, and they're amazing. They've been grown in Scotland, they come in these packets. The packets I want to take, I would like to have as compostable. The challenge with compostable packaging is that it may start to compost. So it's a question of trying to get that balance right between something which is going to be versatile enough to preserve the food, as well as something which can be disposed of without using landfill. Why does food go off? Bacteria. What does bacteria want? It wants moisture, it wants moisture, it wants warmth. It also needs oxygen. So we can take the moisture out, that's really easy, we've proven that. We can take the oxygen out by using a slightly different type of packaging called vacuum packaging. And warmth is something which is more difficult to control, but we've taken 2 of the main benchmarks of bacteria growth out. So fruit is abundant in Fife at the moment. It's full of all sorts of goodness. It's delicious, it's a great snack. So I'm going to try and freeze dry as much fruit as I'm going to need for the crossing over the next month or so. We're also trying to work out how we can freeze dry simple things like lasagnas, roast potatoes, ham. How does that all work? I haven't worked it out yet, but we're going to experiment over the next month or 2. The boat goes south at the end of September, and then I go back down in the middle of October to deliver the food. So food is important, but I need to get some of the training under my belt whilst the boat's here. So food is something which I have a little bit more time to organise. So if there's anyone out there who has a freeze-dried lasagna, who has a freeze-drying machine that we can use, who has any other idea of how I can get food into a preserved form that doesn't require non-compostable packaging, doesn't require tins, and can live in an ambient environment, then please, if you'd like me to take it on my crossing to prove that it's good food, can fuel a normal person to cross the Atlantic, I'd love to hear from you. So in 1950s, a French doctor crossed the Atlantic in a blow-up Zodiac, and he took with him a fishing rod and a pair of tights. He used those tights to sieve the seawater to get plankton to stave off scurvy. He took the fishing rod for obvious reasons. And that was that. He got across the Atlantic in, I think, 114 days. So food for him was the green gunge, as he called it, and fish. So there must be fish there. What type of fish? I don't know. Marlin are a threat which is real. There's been problems with marlin piercing hulls, so that's something which I need to be aware of. The fish for food I find really interesting. I'm not a particularly good fisherman, however I can catch a mackerel, and I'm pretty sure that flying fish will land on the deck. I'm also told that flying fish are revolting, so I need to try and work out what fish I can catch, but I'm pretty sure that with a lemon and a fishing line we can catch some fish. This is actually quite amusing because one of the challenges on this trip is I'm going to have to improvise. No, I can't phone for help. I need to work out how to do stuff. When we were fishing the other day, we lost the weight, so I stole a bit of anchor chain. I'm sure that's probably against the rules, but it worked. We caught some fish, proven by the fish scales on the knife. So, fishing line, knife, lemon, and why not take some wasabi as well? A little bit of sushi and we'll see what happens. So there'll be more days that I care to worry about than I'm going to be wanting to be at home. So what's going to take me home, apart from speaking to my family, food, or maybe take me home? So why can't I take the humble oat cake? Cheese from the Isle of Mull. It's heavy, it's got wax, it's not ideal, but perhaps some sort of compromise of 4 or 5 of these for the crossing. And then Fiona's sweet chili sauce simply has to go with the cheese. So it's quite simple, slightly fed up one morning or one afternoon or one evening or even in the middle of the night when I'm rowing, you just get stuck in and you can pretend you're sitting at the kitchen table. It's probably going to be throwing seawater, it's probably going to be lashing with rain, it's probably miserable. So I'm sitting here on a lovely evening in Fife having cheese, but food takes you home, and this cheese and this oat cake here now will taste even better when I'm sitting bobbing around, feeling sick, missing everyone, maybe Christmas Day, maybe New Year's Eve, but perhaps that little thought, you're meant to feel sorry for me. I hope you do, and if you do, then perhaps you could go to the page PollyAnne.co.uk, and up on the top left hand corner there's a button that says donate to 3 incredible charities. If you're feeling generous, that would be an amazing thing if you could even consider doing that whilst I eat my cheese on biscuits. Thank you very much.